So I am now home for 1 week from my Asia cruise and super excited to share with you all 10 tips and pro tips that I learned while on my Asia cruise. Hey everybody, it's Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, where I go on a weekend cruise just about every weekend, and I just returned from cruising around Asia with the Celebrity Solstice. This was a 12-night cruise that left from Singapore going to Hong Kong, a few stops in Thailand, as well as Vietnam on the way there, and I had such a good time. So I've been, kind of evaluating how to share with you all what my experience was and something that you might could learn and take away from it. In the past, I've done port recaps. Those don't seem to do too good. I think it's way too much detail. So I think what I'm going to do is just say, hey, here's some really good best practices if you're going over on an Asia cruise and things that you need to know about so that you have a better experience than what I had. And I wanted to share that with you. So let's get into the 10 pro tips that I have for your next Asia cruise. First thing that I'll say is make sure that you show up early. So when you are coming to an Asia trip, especially if you were in the US or Europe, the time change is drastic. I believe Singapore was 12 hours for me. And then Thailand and Vietnam were 13 hours ahead. So it is topsy-turvy. Like what is at noon is now at midnight. So it is really difficult to adjust to that, and you don't want to do that on your cruise. Come to where your ship is going to be leaving from a few days earlier. Maybe go to a different place, somewhere around in Asia where you can get used to the time change, push yourself a little bit so by the time you get on the ship, you can fully enjoy and you're ready to go. The second thing that I'll say is it's a 12-night sailing, and what I mean by that is you can't eat so much. So I think I made it to night 10, and all of a sudden my body was like, I'm done. You cannot eat anymore. Stop eating. We can't do this. So at night 10, I really cut back on how much I was eating because I just physically could not eat that much anymore. I was cruising with one of my very good friends, and he insists on going to the main dining room for every single meal, and I wound up ordering like dessert every time. I'd get an appetizer or two appetizers, two entrees, what have you. It was a hodgepodge of stuff. But having 3 set meals like that, like I'm not used to that. And so by night 10, I was tapped out. So make sure that you're watching your food intake and you're slowing yourself down a little bit for a longer cruise. I know most of you probably don't do weekends all the time. Like I'm used to 3 nights. I can eat what I want and then I go back to a normal schedule. This was like 4 cruises in a row for me, and I blew my food diet way too quick. The third thing that I'll say is make sure you bring money in the local currencies, specifically Thailand and Vietnam. This is a place where it actually became a little problematic from time to time that we did not have local currency. The ATMs are great. If you can find an ATM, you can use one of those. Me, on the other hand, I found about 4 different ATMs and all of them declined my card, or my bank declined my card. So if you are traveling abroad, know that that's a risk that you're taking. That's normally how I like to get money, is go to a local ATM and just take out what I need. In this case, it didn't work and kind of left me high and dry. Luckily, my friend's cards worked, so he was able to take money out and we were able to buy what we wanted and do what we needed. Kind of after the fact. We didn't ever have it for Thailand. We did finally wise up and get it for Vietnam. But the main reason that I'll say this is there are bathrooms that will charge you in Asia. And I've even seen this in other places that I've traveled to. It is a nominal fee. It is not much. It was like 5 baht. I think that's Thai baht. It wasn't much, but you still needed to have the money in order to use the restroom facility. And there was one moment where I needed to use the restroom facility and I didn't have any money. So you can see how that might be problematic. The fourth thing that I'll say to do is we came away from this wishing we would have spent more money. I mean, who goes on a trip to Asia and was like, we should have spent more money? We did that. We kind of took the cheaper, easier option out in several of our large cities where we had overnight stays on the cruise ship. The thing that we didn't take into account is to get to the bigger cities. So I'm thinking Bangkok, Hanoi. Your ship is not going to dock there. It's kind of like the Venice situation where the ship is down in Ravenna. It's about the same distance. So for us to get to Bangkok and get to Hanoi, we had to spend 2 to 3 hours in the bus one way. And then when we were done with that, we would take the bus back 2 to 3 hours again to get back to the ship. That was not a fun experience. Riding in a bus for 6 hours one day, or even 4 hours in one day, you feel like you miss a lot of time. You're just seeing the highway at that point. we wish that we would have spent more money and stayed in the big cities. Now, I'm not saying you necessarily need to do an excursion where, Royal Caribbean books you a hotel and does all that stuff and gives you things to do. You can book a shuttle that'll take you just to the big city, and then you can book everything that you want to try to save some money. But if I was to do it again, I would absolutely, if I had an overnight anywhere, I would stay the night in that location to make sure that I got some of the culture and some of that experience. The other thing that I'll say with the excursions, you're on the bus for a long period of time, is you also miss out on the authentic food of the city. So when you're doing an excursion with the cruise line, you're going to take that bus and it's going to go to a buffet where you're going to eat with 3 or 4 other buses. And it is a very, I call it sterilized or sanitized kind of version of the food. So I went to Thailand and did not get spicy food. I'm still a little bit upset by this because all I had was the buffet options that were there. Like I couldn't get true authentic food, and I really missed that. So that'll lead me to my next one, is if you are going here, look at excursions outside of the cruise line. Booking through the cruise line is super easy, and some people like knowing that you've got guaranteed return to the ship. You're going to miss out though. When you are on a tour bus with 40 other people, it's going to go a little bit slower. You might not go exactly where you want to go. You're not going to get the same level of food that you can get by checking out something with a smaller group. I personally use Get Your Guide. I should have done it here. We took the easy way out and just booked everything through the cruise line. But going forward, if we go over there, we're really going to look at third-party vendors to give us even better excursions. Number one, we'll do a lot more and we'll be able to see more, but we can, experience it in a smaller group. Going with a large group of people just isn't a thing, and I'm still upset about the food situation. The sixth thing I'll mention is download the Grab app, G-R-A-B. This is the Uber alternative in Asia. So I think it's actually owned by Uber. So if you log into Uber, it'll say download the Grab app. Make sure that you do download this before you get over there, or even when you're there, get it all set up so that if you do want to go somewhere, you're able to do that. So if you don't want to do an excursion, for instance, if you say, Brandon, I don't want to use a third party, I kind of just want to do my own thing, there are some really nice areas by the port, but you're still going to have to take an Uber, or in this case, a Grab, to get you there. So make sure that you download it. It's actually really easy to use. I used it in several locations while we were there, but there were a lot of other people that did this. Make sure that you are not doing the Grab bike. They do have little Vespas that will come pick you up with their motorbike version, and you can ride, one person on each one, and you can do it that way, but I'm not sure if that's the safest option or the option that I would want. If you're adventurous, it is a cheaper option to have a Grab bike come pick you up. Not sure that I recommend that though. The seventh thing I'll say is make sure that you wear long pants and cover your shoulders every single day. So many of the excursions will be going to temples. There are a ton of amazing and beautiful temples over in Thailand, Vietnam, all over the place. Even some of the royal places that you're going to be going to, or some of the government facilities, will require you to cover your shoulders and your knees to pay respect to that situation or to that location. So some of the tours I noticed did not say you need to have something for your shoulders and something to cover your legs. And you wound up still needing it. Chances are you will be going somewhere that you need to cover your shoulders and your legs. So make sure that you have something, whether you have a throw-on with you, some pants that you brought with you. Make sure you can change on the bus or whatever tour you're on for your excursion. They will be selling elephant pants. These are fun little pants that you can buy for very cheap outside of most of these establishments if you bring shorts and you forget to bring anything to cover up. Even saw one woman who had her knees covered, but ever so barely, with a pair of like halfway pants. I don't even know what those are called. And she was told that she needed to wear something a little bit longer. So just go prepared. This leads me into my next one, and thinking about being prepared when you go to Vietnam, Thailand, even Singapore and Hong Kong to a certain degree. The weather's going to be really unpredictable here. You don't know what you're going to get. It's probably going to be hot, it's probably going to be humid, and guess what? It's probably going to rain at some point. Because it's not a tropical forest. There's another term that they use for it, but it's very dense, and the weather can shift. We luckily only had 1 or 2 days of rain while we were there. But just because you go on vacation does not mean you're going to have amazing weather. AKA, I'm in Ocean Key right now with MSC and it's raining outside. So just because you're on vacation, plan for rain, plan for different kinds of weather. It might be cool in the morning and then warm in the afternoon. So bring an umbrella, bring a poncho. I had just a small little car umbrella and that worked perfect for me, and I could fold it up and take it back on the bus so that we could go back. The ninth thing that I'll talk about is in Hue, which I think is how you say that, or the Imperial City specifically, is where we went in Hue. And we had a wonderful time there, but we were rushed. We wish that we would have more time there. We didn't really enjoy the trip as much as we could have. It is beautiful. It's massive. And by the way, it's being restored more and more every single day. So if you're going there in the future, it's going to be even more pretty as they finish different sections here. But I highly recommend you doing a third-party excursion specifically to this location, or even doing it on your own so that you can take it all in. One of the hard lessons that I learned here as well is don't wait for the last restroom for your trip before you use the restroom. Had a horrible experience. So they wanted us to go into this theater. It was the last stop that we could go into to use the restroom, and there was a policy to get into the theater. You had to take your shoes off to show respect. That's another thing you're going to have to do in a lot of temples. So make sure you've got good shoes, good socks that you can slip on and off quickly. So I took my shoes off, went in, went to the restroom, and very quickly went, I'm getting ready to walk into a men's restroom with my socks on. And I had a panic moment. But I looked in, other people were wearing their socks, and so I went in, I bit the bullet, but my socks were wet the entire rest of the day. And by the way, I showed respect to take my shoes off. Coming out of there, I trapped all of that back through that theater, and I was kind of skeeved out by it. I can't believe I'm sharing this with you all on YouTube, but here we are. So the 10th thing that I'll share is make sure that you do My Time dining if you're going on an Asia cruise, or select dining. Whatever that cruise line is calling their flexible dining policy, make sure that's the one that you are booking, because your excursions are going to come back at all sorts of times and they're not linked to anything. And so they're definitely not linked to a dinner time. So make sure that you have the flexibility to come back and go straight to dinner. There was even one time where our excursion ran like 2 hours late. So even if we would have made a reservation, we would have completely missed that. We barely got there by the time the restaurant closed. So best practice, have My Time dining. Don't worry about one of the fixed seatings that you have to make if you like the main dining room. The main dining room, by the way, on Celebrity was absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend it, especially compared to the buffet. The buffet was good, but their main dining room was amazing. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed these 10 tips that I learned, or some tricks of the trade that I picked up while I was on my 12-night Asia cruise on Celebrity Solstice. This is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, hoping to see you on a weekend cruise or longer sailing soon.